Hello and welcome to this great video of greatness. Anyway, so probably some of you think, wait a minute, isn't that idiot that said in the last video that it's going to be his last video ever? So what gives? Okay, let me tell you what's happening. Now, after I released the last video, about a week after, I got an email from the bundle company that I've worked with for the last years. And, it's kind of curious, kind of weird that every single time, I already mentioned this in the last video, every time I think, there is no way out. This was the last straw, it's over. All of a sudden, out of the blue, some random thing just happens, and all of a sudden I have another carrot on a stick hanging in front of me. So this is exactly what happened this time again. I thought I was out of options, and now I'm just living my life, enjoying my last few moments, months I should say, that I still have left to in this apartment before I cannot pay any rent and they kick me out. I just wanted to enjoy my last few months and weeks or whatever. But alas, the bundle company asked me for Town of Machine and Action Commando to be featured in a bundle, and I would probably make a bunch of money out of that. And by a bunch, I mean I can probably pay one rent from that, so at least it's something. But it kind of got me thinking, okay, let's be realistic and look at my options. Okay, first off, I wanted to just briefly mention my strategy for all of this. Why am I making this shit? Okay, and I mean shit in quotes. I don't consider my games shit. I still think they're all great. Anyway, Town of Machine was my last, in quotes, real effort. I wanted to see if that sells, because I really gave it my all to make it a good game, a fun experience. But somehow it didn't really happen. Now I thought, okay, if I go smaller and I can make quantity over quality, and I still think Action Commando has a lot of quality. It's not a bad game, it's not unoptimized or anything. I've put a lot of effort into that, believe it or not. But it was considerably a shorter amount of time I've spent on Action Commando than on any other game. And the reason is because I wanted to see if that can keep me up on Steam, keep me in the game if I release. So my plan was to release 6 games over the last half of the year, like every month, 1 game per month basically, to see if that gives me financial an uplift, it lifts me financially back out of this hole. But guess what? Steam has already taken precautions to not let that happen. They will not give any money to anyone who isn't deserving. If you're not a big marketing company that can give them thousands and millions of money up front, they won't bother. This is actually what I've actually heard, because I was in talks with a marketing company for Unloved back then, and before we talked money, I said to them, okay, what's your deal, what can you give me? And they said, literally, they can guarantee front page visibility on Steam for a limited time. That's what they said to me. So I'm under the impression that Steam is selling front page visibility to marketing campaigns or marketing companies for a price. If I'm wrong, I may be wrong, but this is my impression. Because it makes sense from a business perspective, why would they offer it to any kind of random game without any guarantee that it will sell? When marketing is basically a guarantee that all of them will make money. Back then I didn't take the deal because they literally wanted all the money that I had. It was the lowest, their lowest offer was all the money I had left in my bank account. And I was very, very hesitant to give, I would basically have to go all in on this one company with this one deal. And I didn't take it, and I still made a really good amount back then, amount of money. for me, as a single person. If I had a studio or if I had any workers, any people working for me, we would have been out of business anyway. But for me personally, as a one-person thing, it was kind of good money, and I was very happy. Anyway, that's beside the point. Now, let's get back to today. So I'm taking this bundle deal, and I can pay 1 or 2 more rents with that, tops. And Steam already said I'm not getting any more keys, which means that not only are they shitheads for not promoting or giving me any kind of visibility with my games that I've worked on for so long, but on top of that, they deny me to make any money on any other deals, like these bundles. So Steam is a huge fucking pile of shit. And, in their defense, I don't know why I'm defending them, but here I am. I'm pretty sure they're doing this because many, many other devs tried to exploit this already. So I'm pretty much like, the last one that's trying the same shit, and they're already sick and tired of these devs doing that, and they consider me at this point as one of these garbage devs, I guess. So whatever. Anyway, so again, sorry for being so, what's the word, or digressing, is that the word? Anyway, now what does this mean for me? I have already worked on Action Commando 2 before I took my break. I took like 1 month of break where I didn't do anything. I just played, old classic games, and it was just a fun time. These classic games, I'm pretty sure nowadays you can't really appreciate them anymore because you had to live through that time. It was a completely different time. It was a time where you didn't have new releases of games every day. It was like every few months a good game came out. Maybe not even that, maybe once per year or something like that. But new really good games were very, very few and far in between, It's not like today, like 50 games release every day. But you really cherished what you had. Even if a game had flaws, you were more than willing to look beyond these flaws and just see it as a fun experience nonetheless. Sometimes even these flaws made the game more fun. It was just a very different time back then. Anyway, so I took a break, and now I'm looking at, for the past week or two. For the last week. So since I got the email, okay, so I released the last video end of June, so 1 week after I got the email, and since then, so pretty much for a week now, I've been working or getting back into the groove of working on Action Commando 2. The reason why I'm doing this is simply because I'm hoping that at some point in the future I get another deal, like another bundle deal, because Steam is just history at this point. They won't sell my games. It makes no sense for me to keep working for Steam to release anything on Steam. But I have to, because it's the only way how you can actually release a game without being a joke. I mean, come on, does anyone actually consider itch.io games as real games? I mean, the vast majority on that site is literal garbage. It's like the worst of the worst of the worst. Anyway, the point of all of this is I will release Action Commando 2 because I'm already pretty far in development. And the thing is about these games is these games don't take much time, as you can probably tell. And now here's my future plan. I will release Action Commando 2 in about a week, because there isn't much work left on that game. And after that, I want to make a JRPG. It's something completely different from everything else I've done. I don't care. It will probably not sell on Steam at all. I don't care. I won't even be able to finish it before I get kicked out of my apartment. I don't care. I just want to make this game. It's in the back of my head for like 20 years. And I think now is the time to just work on that and just have one last really great passion project that I can work on and spend my time on. Because I had like 1 month off and it was great, but at some point it's getting kind of boring. So I'm just a person, I need to keep working on something. And this project is something, you know, I've talked about this a few times. Back in like the early 2000s, I had a pen and paper RPG that I developed to play with my friends back then. And it was just great fun. And we had really, really a fun time with that. And all my friends told me that this needs to be a real video game. And ever since, I had this in the back of my mind to make a game like this. And believe it or not, Dimension Drifter, the very first idea that I had for Dimension Drifter was a JRPG. Now, back then, I had no idea how to do that. So what it turned into was a Fallout type of game with looting of, loot, inventory, stuff like that, companions, all that good stuff. But that was way too much over my head. It was way too much. And all the 3D stuff threw me off so much because I had to work so long on that stuff alone. That all the other stuff that I envisioned was just completely, the time. I've spent 2 years, I think, or 1 year, I think, on Dimension Drifter, and I barely got anything off the ground. And I was heartbroken when Dimension Drifter released in a somewhat broken state, and it didn't sell at all. And I was really, really, how do I say this? I was really, really, it swept me off my feet. No, that's the wrong term. But I can't think of it. It pulled the rug out of under my feet or something like that. You know what I mean? I was just I was falling on my face hard. I felt really fucked up, and I was very frustrated, and I was just fucking disappointed with everything. So I thought to myself, this 3D stuff is just way out of my league. I never did anything in 3D. I have no idea how that works. I still managed to get something, presentable out of that, I think. I still think like it looks good, but it just showed me that this was just way, way over my head with the scope. So I reduced Dimension Drifter during the development. I reduced the idea, and I removed all this stuff that would take months and months extra, like all the RPG mechanics, class mechanics, skills, abilities, all that stuff. I took it out. I was like, okay, let's just focus on an action game, and let's just do that. But again, I kept this RPG idea in the back of my head all the time. And with Town of Machine, again, at first I made a strategy game, but that didn't work. But then I wanted to take that map, the map part, and turn that into some kind of an open world RPG thing. But that also didn't work because, again, it was just out of the scope. Because if you have a map with 16 by 16 tiles, it would still mean that every single tile had to be some kind of part of the map. So I would have to make like 256 map pieces, which is just a ridiculous amount of map pieces. So I said to myself again, okay, let's not make an open world, but let's just make a small adventure game. And this is what you got with Town of Machine. But what all these games have in common is the common idea behind it to make an RPG, because this is all I wanted to make from the beginnings of Dimension Drifter. And that's why all of these games are taking place in the same kind of like this dimension universe, or whatever you want to call it. This overarching world or whatever. So anyway, yeah. Now I'm thinking, okay, I've always had a great time with JRPGs. I've always wanted to make a JRPG. So let's, now is the time. Let's just do it. I know what I'm doing now in terms of like the Unreal Engine. I'm pretty sure I have a pretty good grasp on how I can realize that game in a reasonable amount of time. And also, I want to work on a project that is really, really something that comes, you know, from my heart, basically. I don't want to make any more of these like short-term, whatever, you know, experimental budget games. You know, let's see if that sells. I don't care about that shit anymore. It doesn't work, so I'm not keeping, you know, I'm not doing that anymore. But again, Action Commander 2 is already halfway done, so I will finish that up and release it on Steam, you know, be done with it. But it's not really something I will put a lot of heart and soul into. Again, it's an experiment, and it failed, so yeah. But yeah, again, it would be just a waste of time to not finish it. So I will do that. But I'm already thinking about concepts and mechanics for the JRPG that I will be working on. I already have an idea about the story. It will be about the Fool. Anyone who played Unloved knows that the Fool loves running around in a basement. So the story will begin in the basement of Unloved. And the Fool will kind of realize that he has spent his entire life in the basement, and now is the time to, you know, break out of that and go into the real world. And this is the story of the JRPG. Now I will add all kinds of classes and mechanics and skills, abilities, weapons, all that stuff. It's a turn-based RPG like the early like Final Fantasy games, because I really like that style. If that's not for you, you know, whatever, just, you know, what can I say? I'm just, you know, I'm not the kind of guy that makes the same game over and over and over. I'm just getting sick and tired of my own ideas, so I want to experiment and do something else. And this, again, this JRPG thing was in the back of my mind all the time, but I always go back to action because I just think that action games are my comfort zone. And now I want to make something different. I want to branch out, basically. Even if it doesn't sell, and I know that abysmal sales of JRPGs on Steam, like there's like hundreds of them. There's a RPG Maker, you know, and many, you know, it's like the biggest flood, I guess, but I don't care. I want to make my own game. And I will develop a completely new visual style for that. I will not reuse any of the sprites I've made for Town of Machine. I will reuse the 3D assets because I just think they are great. They are of huge, great quality, and I can pretty much make any kind of world out of them that I want. So I will reuse that, but in a very different style. And yeah, that's just a passion project that I want to make. I really don't care if it sells at all. If anyone is interested, I don't, you know, if someone is interested, that would be great. So if you like to, you know, if I start working on that project and people are interested, I could make some dev videos on that. So that would be something completely different for a change, you know, see me work on an RPG with a real story, and it will be open world, by the way. But, you know, in a limited way. So there will be certain locations that you can travel to, but not too crazy. But also, you know, it's a fair bit of content that I've planned, and I'm really excited to work on. But again, I don't know how long it will take. I have no idea if it will ever be released, because maybe I will get kicked out of my apartment before that the game is finished or whatever. I have no idea, but it's just something I want to do. Anyway, you know, okay, so that's pretty much everything I had to say. So if anyone is interested in me showing something of the work that I'm doing for that JRPG, let me know and I will make some videos about that. But other than that, I will probably just keep it for myself and just work on it as a project that I just want to make, because I had it in the back of my head for like 20 years and I never really got the, I don't know, maybe balls to do it, or maybe I was just uncertain if it sells, or it was just, I guess it was just out of my comfort zone, I think. But right now I have nothing to lose, so that's just what I want to do with the last, maybe the last month that I have in this apartment or whatever. I have no idea. Anyway, so yeah, let me know what you think. And yeah, that's my video. I thank you guys for watching. Again, I can't tell you if I will make another video or not. We have to see if the bundle deal gives me enough money to pay for another rent or whatever. I have no idea, but again, I have to see what life brings me and go with it as it comes, or like, what is it, the phrase? I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Thank you guys for watching, and I will probably see you in the next video.